Ladies and gentlemen, today in Ratchet & Clank, President Trump, no, that doesn't sound right at all. President Biden, no, that still doesn't sound right. That's not how I want to start the video. Ladies and gentlemen, today in Ratchet & Clank, President Phyronix is trying to win his second-term election after being beaten by the sleepy Gadgetron guy from the first game. Sounds like a semi-familiar situation, if you know what I mean. Fortunately, President Phyronix did get the popular vote and won his second term, and has promised us, as the Solana Galaxy, to lower the prices on day one. Unfortunately, just like most of us in the US, no political comments. The prices were not lowered, and therefore we are playing Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal Inflation Edition, where every single weapon in the entire game is double the price it was originally intended to cost. This challenge was really fun, and it forced me to take a different approach on how to get as many bolts as possible, while also optimizing what weapons to get, knowing that I would need decent weapons for late game. We start our journey off on Veldin, and even though we have this crazy inflation, because we work for the government, the Galactic Rangers still give us the Shock Blaster and the Nitro Launcher entirely free. I'm very surprised to see that government officials still get free weapons. Thank you very much to the Rangers. Maybe they're being generous, maybe they're going to lose their jobs when they get back, I don't know, but thank you so much, it helps me out a lot. With our new weapons in hand, we move on to Florana, doing everything we can to get as many bolts as possible. We get the bolt multiplier crate and we capitalize on these bolts, because even though we have the ×2 multiplier, it basically just gets canceled out with the inflation anyways. I knew during this challenge I wouldn't be able to get a lot of amazing and powerful weapons, so I kind of had to pinpoint a few that I knew would be really good throughout the beginning of the game and fairly decent through end game. The first one that came to mind was actually available as early as the Starship Phoenix, though we did not buy it until Marcadia. As soon as we landed on Marcadia, we purchased our very first double-priced weapon, that being the Suck Cannon. The Suck Cannon is actually a very powerful weapon and a very broken weapon in this game. It basically sucks up all of the smaller enemies as well as the crates and shoots it back at the enemies, dealing massive damage. The weapon is extremely good. Once we get it to V5 with the Vortex Cannon, it kills so many enemies instantly, and for only 16,160 bolts, I honestly think even with the inflated price, that's worth it. Now, I know what you're thinking. If you're wondering where that extra 160 bolts came from, I had an incentive to my viewers during my stream where everybody who subscribed during that stream added 1% to the inflation rate, making it at this moment 202% total. Because why not just have my viewers torture me? I mean, that's the point of streaming, right? After obtaining the Suck Cannon, we finished the 5 missions on Marcadia, each giving us a large sum of bolts per completion. After Marcadia, we also collect every single token in the Quark Vid comic, which gives us an additional 6,000 bolts. After all of this, we finally head to Annihilation Nation, where we also do a couple extra gauntlets, extra challenges, and we also challenge the Terrible 2 to get even more bolts. As you guys know, the arenas are the greatest places to get bolts in Ratchet & Clank, so obviously, this is going to be where a lot of our extra bolts come from. Once we're done with Annihilation Nation, we decide to finally head to Aquatos, and we head to Aquatos with 65,000 bolts, which is actually a really good amount at this point in the game. And we already almost have enough for the next weapon we want to buy, which is available on Aquatos. So we need to grind every bolt we can by the end of Aquatos, and right at the end of Aquatos, when we get to Slim Cognito, we have just enough bolts to buy our second inflated weapon, the Lava Gun. You all know that the Lava Gun is absolutely amazing in this game. Now, I initially thought it was 25,000. I failed to realize that it was 40,000, which is why I said we barely had enough bolts. We had 70 bolts left.
So we knew that we needed to grind more bolts if we're going to buy any other weapons in the future.
So obviously, after getting the Lava Gun, we complete the second portion of Aquatos, and this is where we get into the Aquatos sewers, where we can collect crystals. We collect as many sewer crystals as possible, yielding us 2,000 bolts each crystal, and I believe we ended Aquatos with around 40,000 bolts, which is pretty good for just having 70. Heading to Tyrannosis, we don't really have any issues with our current arsenal. The Lava Gun easily carries throughout the entire level, where we destroy these 4 insanely inappropriate looking nodes that destroy the 4 turrets, so we can get the dropship in to destroy the wall so we can fight the boss. And when it comes to the boss, the Shock Cannon weaving is just so broken. If you guys don't know what Shock Cannon weaving is, once you get the Shock Blaster to level 5, you get the Shock Cannon. If you hold circle, it shoots a beam forward. But what you can do with that beam, it's about 3 seconds long, and if you spin around with it, you can hit the same target multiple times or multiple targets. And the damage it deals is absolutely insane. It is so devastatingly powerful that we can clear phase 1 and 2 with just the shock cannon. We head back to the Starship Phoenix to do the VR training so that we can get the hacker and the hypershot from Helga, who again is so mean to us. I don't know why. Aside from the section where we get the hacker and the hypershot from Helga, there is actually an entirely another section to the VR, which is kind of like a training ground where there's like warm-ups and little missions, and they give you a few extra bolts. All of the missions total would have given me around 6,000 bolts plus any bolts from the enemy drops, but in my honest opinion, I just decided to skip this because I really didn't think it was that worth it. Anyways, we now head to Dax. Now Dax is a cakewalk. The charge boot path was easy with the shock cannon and the lava gun to pick off the smaller enemies. The shock cannon also takes care of the gunship as well as the main path of the level. Like I told you guys before, the shock cannon weaving is so broken. It is just, it hard carries throughout the entire beginning and middle section of the game. It kind of dies down a little bit by the end, but that's okay because we have better weapons then. By the end of Dax, we have almost 100,000 bolts. Wow, that's like almost enough for a kid's meal at Galaxy Burger. Dude, these prices are insane. Speaking of Galaxy Burger, Obani Pollux, the very next level after Obani Gemini, gives us so many bolts. This planet is absolutely loaded, and it takes like a minute to beat this level, but in less than a minute to beat the level, we got 25,000 bolts. That multiplier on that planet is absolutely carrying. The next two levels also give us loads and loads of money. Blackwater City gives us 60,000 bolts in total for completing all 3 of the Ranger missions, which are literally mandatory anyways, so I don't even see why you get bolts for helping them. I guess thank you. We then have to head back to Annihilation Nation to meet up with sweet, sexy mama Courtney Gears. While we're on Annihilation Nation, we're also eyeing up the sweet, sweet, amazing third weapon to add to our arsenal. That being the Flux Rifle. I believe we can buy the Flux Rifle now. Let me see how much it will be. It will be 159,000 due to the 6% increase. I think it's easily worth it. And then after those, we head to... I'm not gonna lie to you guys, nothing eventful really happened here. Oh, okay, I guess I did die. Wow, I suck. Anyways, after Hollow Star Studio, we murder our wife and avenge Skid for enduring his robotic cock and ball torture or something like that. I don't know, she's really kinky. Hey, Ms. Gears, I call dibs after Skid. We headed to the bolt grabber section in Zeldrin Starport. This part alone gave us over 40,000 bolts. Needless to say, as you progress through the game and get further and further, the amount of bolts you naturally get is significantly higher the further you are in the game. That's why Koros is known as a bolt farm. Headed back to the Phoenix, we get even more bolts by doing VidComic 2, 3, and 4, yielding us a total of 38,000 bolts, which is weird. I don't know why VidComic 4 only yields 8,000 bolts. I feel like I may have done something wrong there. We clear Metropolis with 0 issues. We even waste time to remind everybody that 2002 was an absolutely amazing year. After clearing Metropolis, we have our next weapon in sight, the Disc Blade Gun. The chopper on steroids. This thing is freaking busted. Unfortunately, the original price of the Disc Blade Gun doubled, would have been 350,000 bolts, which we had 362,000, but because of my stupid incentive earlier, the inflation rate was at 206%. So I was 7,000 bolts short. Unfortunately, we had to grind a bit more bolts. Fortunately, that took like 8 seconds. After clearing Crash Site, we head to the worst version of Iridia from the first game. As soon as we land on Iridia, we buy the Disc Blade Gun, one of my favorite weapons in the entire game. Now, unfortunately, given that there are only 3 levels left in the entire game after Iridia, in order to get one more weapon that I'm eyeballing, I need to grind even harder than I grinded your dad last night. I'm sorry. Your mom jokes are getting kind of old. I figured I'd turn it up a bit. No? Okay. Sorry. Fortunately, Iridia has 5 Galactic Ranger missions, and again, even though I work for the government, they work for the government, I'm still getting 100,000 bolts total after this mission, which is absolutely insane. That puts us 1/3 of the way to the weapon we were looking for anyways. We then immediately follow it up with Quark VidComic 5, which gives us 25,000 more bolts and the coordinate to Big Weenie Baby's hideout. I mean, even with the Disc Blade Gun in our arsenal, this level has been and always will be no joke. Quark's hideout is absolutely broken when it comes to being a balanced level, whether it's the ice physics, the terrible automatic swing shot that I always seem to die on, or if it's just the brute strength and health of these Quark bots. They are literally by far the hardest enemy in the entire level, and the ice physics does not make it any easier. I mean, maybe I'm just bad, which is likely the case, but this level was ridiculous. After what felt like 6 quadrillion deaths, we finally cleared the level. By the way, I don't know why I'm bitching. I literally died 4 times. I don't know where the 6 quadrillion came from. By the time we leave Hideout, we already have 250,000 bolts. We are officially 83.333333% towards our final bolt goal. In fact, right after Phoenix Rescue, we can just go get the final weapon we want. Okay, so this will remove 318,000 bolts. 8,762 bolts. But we now have the bouncer, so I honestly think it's worth it. With the bouncer in hand, we absolutely crush Koros, killing everyone and everything. Not just the men, but the women and children too. This weapon goes hard. And remember, I'm not even a bouncer Benjamin. I don't even like the bouncer. But when it came to a challenge like this where I'm limited on weapons, I knew it would give just that final bit of firepower that we would need to beat this game. By the end of Koros, we actually ended up having extra money in the bank, and I entirely forgot to buy armor in this game, mainly because this game is made for babies who don't have access to real guns. So since I had the extra cash, I bought the adamantine armor. I probably said that wrong, which for reference, I have never bought this armor in my life. Usually when I play this game, I raw dog it up until the green armor is available. But in this challenge, there was absolutely no way I was pulling 150,000 bolts out of my ass. Well, okay, no, not quite enough, but you get my point. Anyways, that being said, it is time for Dr. Nefarious. With him out of the way, President Phyronix has guaranteed prices would significantly drop. Not that we trust him at all. I mean, look what he did to us on his first term, dude, come on. Anyways, we don't really have a choice, so we have to stop Dr. Nefarious. Nefarious actually was not an issue at all. Again, the bouncer on phase 1 slaughtered him. And for phase 2, we just used a combination of the bouncer, flux rifle, and disc blade gun to finish the fight and end inflation once and for all. Well, once we destroy the giant disco ball looking bro.
Many months later.
3 months after Nefarious' defeat, the president officially released a statement on the current state of things. Due to the heroic acts of Ratchet and Clank, the galaxy's inflation rate has officially dropped to 199%.